Welcome to Remote Project Management for Virtual Production. In this series, I'm going to be talking about the basic 12 steps that we use for doing project management. My target audience for this is for virtual production students that are just getting started on their first major project. But of course, this is open and hopefully will be useful to anybody that's getting started with project management and working with remote teams. But before we get started, make sure you pay the class fee of a like or subscribe. Since this tutorial is aimed at students, I will be emphasizing the use of free or very low-cost tools to do all of the project management. First thing you have to do is, what is your project? Now, when we're talking about project management, we're talking about something that has a definitive begin and end date. Since this is targeting a group of students that are learning to do virtual production, we're assuming that the project needs to be done by the end of the semester. At maximum, it's going to be 15 or 16 weeks in length. Once we have the script, and you've got to have a script before you have a project for virtual production. Once you've got a script ready to go for a major project, it is imperative that you make sure you have buy-in from everybody that's going to be working on it. If you've got stakeholders or people that are investing in it, make sure that they approve of that script. You might also need a storyboard to show them so that they get an idea of what you're trying to create. But you need full buy-in. The next step, once you have a script and buy-in from your team, is to start creating your task list. Now, the task list is traditionally done if you're working face-to-face with Post-it notes. Everybody gets a little pile of Post-it notes and Sharpie and starts writing down the tasks. Granularity is very important when we're figuring out tasks. If you make your tasks too big, it becomes unwieldy. If they're too small, they're also unwieldy. So for creating our basic task list, we want to keep that size just right. So you might list that you need to create assets, that you need to create characters, you need to create the environment. Those might be separate topics. I'm not going to go in there and say I need to create a lamp in my 3D modeling, or I need to create grass in the 3D modeling. That would be too fine of a granular setting for this. So this is very much a Goldilocks situation. After you've done a few projects, you get a feel for what the correct granularity is. Once we've got a good list of tasks available for us, the next thing to do is to organize them from what needs to come first through what will be the last thing until our project is gold and ready to be published. So we're going to start with possibly a storyboard or and once we've got the storyboard, or at the same time that the storyboard's being created, we might start creating the assets, or working with the game engine, or Blender or Maya, or whatever tool we're using to do the actual animation process with. Once we have these organized in what the flow will be, what comes first, what comes second, etc., and know what can be worked on concurrently and what needs to be done by itself, we can then go through and plan our paths. What has to be done before other parts can be completed. The most important path to plan is the time critical path. The time critical path is how many weeks it will take to complete the entire project. As I said, this is for students based on student projects. So when we're talking about the iron triangle, and the iron triangle is made up of time, cost or money, and the quality. Two of these things can be immutable, unchangeable. The third, though, has to be changeable. In this particular case, we know that time is the most important factor because it has to be done before the final. So time has to be set. So we might have to change spend some more money on it, or we might have to drop the quality or leave a scene out of our story to be able to get it done on time. It's critical that we make full planning and know what can be adjusted and what cannot be adjusted. Now, don't worry yet. We will be breaking these larger tasks, such as creating assets or creating characters, into smaller bite-sized pieces in the next stage when we're creating our Kanban, which we'll be using Trello to do. And that'll be in the next episode. So once we've got our critical path, or our time critical path, we know how much time this will take to complete. And we can adjust based upon that, knowing that we are limited on our time. Make sure you come back next time, and we will be talking about using Kanban or in other words, using a Trello board for doing management of your project.